Okay, Nell, please get us started.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Hello, and thank you for attending this evening. My name is Nell Clausen, and I am the Voter Service Chair of the local league of the League of Women Voters US, a national nonpartisan, nonprofit organization whose purpose is to promote the informed and active participation of citizens in government. We welcome both men and women. I want to underscore the primary tenet of our organization, nonpartisanship. In the 102 years since we were established, we have never endorsed or opposed a candidate or political party at any level of government. We are ardent about positions, not people. It is sometimes confusing, however, because after a formal study process, we will and have taken positions on issues. We are truly grateful and impressed by those of you who are participating in tonight's forum, to the candidates for your willingness and courage to run for office, to the audience for your involvement in the democratic process, and to the local league members who expend a great deal of time and energy to make sure these forums are fair and informative. I hope you enjoyed the slideshow with important information about the league and upcoming forums this month. If you missed it, please note it will run again at the end of the forum for about 5 minutes. With that, I'd like to introduce Carol Calderwood, the moderator this evening. We appreciate her volunteering to do this forum for us this evening. Carol?
Hi, I want to thank everybody for attending. My name is Carol Calderwood, and I'm the recording secretary for the Clallam County League of Women Voters. I want to welcome everyone to the PUD Commissioner District 1 Candidate Forum. Some of you are watching online, and some of you may be watching simultaneously on Peninsula Area Public Access Channel 21. They are broadcasting simultaneously, and they will also be broadcasting this again on Wednesdays and Mondays. And I'll tell you more about that at the end of tonight, so you can check it out there as well. I want to especially thank the two candidates running for the PUD District 1 Commissioner seat, Ken Hayes and Will Purser. Local elections sometimes receive the least publicity and the least voter interest. But in fact, local elections are the most important elections, as decisions are made by local boards and commissions that affect citizens directly. This is especially true for the PUD, because unless you live off the grid, everyone is affected by the decisions made by the PUD. So I want to say thank you to Ken Hayes and Will Purser for their willingness to take up this challenge and run for office. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in to make an informed decision. And remember, you will be voting for one of these two candidates in November. Now I would like to introduce Bonnie Bless-Bonesh, who is going to be showing us how this will be timed. So Bonnie.
Thank you, Carol. I'm Bonnie, your timer for tonight's forum. Here's a demonstration of how the timing will work. I'll be alternating between the timer title screen and a countdown video. After the moderator asks a question, each candidate will have the same amount of time to respond. Once a candidate begins speaking, I'll start the countdown timer. The timer begins with a purple background, and then at 15 seconds remaining, the background turns yellow. When the time is up, the background is red and the word stop appears. Candidates may finish the sentence they're on, but then need to stop. Thank you for staying within the time limits. Back to you, Carol.
So this forum will end by 7 o'clock. It may end a little bit sooner depending on the number of questions and the time it takes for the answers. Thank you to all of you who sent us in questions for this forum. So to start with is, what is a public utility district? It's a community-owned, locally regulated utility created by the vote of the people. PUDs in Washington are authorized to provide electricity, water, sewer services, and telecommunication services. There are currently 28 PUDs. Of those, 24 provide electricity, 18 provide water and wastewater services, and 15 provide access to broadband telecommunications, and one even provides renewable gas. Most PUDs purchase electricity wholesale from the Bonneville Power Administration, also called the BPA. PUDs are governed by nonpartisan, locally elected Board of Commissioners, which is why we're here tonight. Commissioners are responsible for setting rates and for overseeing the operation of the PUDs. They meet in open session where members of the public can observe and participate in decision-making process. Clallam County has a 3-member board, and the commissioners are elected to serve 6-year terms. Commissioner salaries are set by state law, and they're based on the size of the utility. Our candidates are going to give a short introduction. This will be done in 2 different rounds. The first round is 1 minute, and the candidates will discuss their education and experience. The second round will be 2 minutes, and they will discuss their goals and expectations for the PUD. The order of speaking was decided by the candidate filing date and time for office. So the first one to give their experience and their education will be Ken Hayes. So Ken, you have 1 minute to discuss your education and your experience.
All right, well, thank you all to the League of Women Voters for inviting us. My education, I'm educated, trained, and licensed as a professional architect. My 30-year career is broad, deep, and strong in the areas of planning, design, project development, structural engineering, water and wastewater systems, 600-volt electric systems, telecommunications, systematic program analysis, facilities assessment, facilities management, capital works budget development, and construction project management. My public service experience includes 8 years on the Sequim City Council, 4 years as mayor, tested and proven experience leading a municipal government, 4 years Sequim Planning Commission, 4 years on the Clallam County Charter Review Commission, approximately 6 years on the Clallam County Economic Development Board, 1 year as president, 4 years on the Clallam County Homelessness Task Force. Other experience locally is 4 years on the Boys and Girls Club Finance Board, 7 years teaching at-risk youth sailing through the Boys and Girls Club, and 4 years coaching the Sequim High School sailing team.
Thank you. So Will, you have 1 minute to explain your education and experience.
Okay, thank you, and thanks to the League. My wife and I moved to the Olympic Peninsula 25 years ago. And after I retired from the Royal Dutch Shell Group as an engineering and operations manager. I'm an engineer by education, graduate and postgraduate degrees. I'm a retired licensed professional engineer in California, Colorado, and Texas, and the Institute of Engineers in the UK. I've represented PUD as its commissioner since 2001, many of those years as the chairman. I'm chairman of the Energy Northwest Executive Board, past member of the Public Power Council Executive Committee, Washington PUD Association Energy Committee, and representative to the Northwest Open Access Network. I've participated in community service through Rotary, Boys and Girls Club, Nutrition Center, and so on. I have 2 children, a daughter, and I'm also a veteran. I was discharged in '69.
Thank you. For our second round, each candidate has 2 minutes to discuss their goals and expectations. Ken, you have 2 minutes to describe your goals and expectation as a PUD commissioner.
I'm running for PUD commissioner to control utility cost inflation, to balance rates with base cost to be fairer, to incentivize more conservation, to lead expansion of broadband service connecting the last mile across the county, to secure our energy future, and to support our local economy. Controlling cost to ratepayers comes from 3 efforts: a lean budget, aggressive conservation measures, and controlling our energy future. Since I came to Sequim in 1978, overall inflation is 443%. During this period, the PUD electric budget is inflated more than 1,100%. My experience in government finance tells me a 10% reduction in budget bloated year over year from constantly adding cost is easily found. That would yield nearly $8 million in savings, or nearly $20 per month for every ratepayer in the service area. Current PUD conservation efforts meet minimum requirements, which is code for not believing in the underlying goals. Targeting minimum levels the past 3 years resulted in a net energy increase. More needs to be done. Conservation has been, still is, and will continue to be the best way to reduce costs for ratepayers. The energy future is complex and challenging. By 2050, demand for power is projected to double, and hydro alone will not meet the growing need. Hydro, combined with other resources like advanced nuclear fission, electrofuels, advanced biofuels, wind, solar, storage, pumped hydro, and other new innovations will all be required to meet the demand. Combining variable energy resources with hydro's flexibility is particularly useful for remote locations like Clallam County. We must be forward-looking, vigilant, and strategically plan opportunities for energy resilience and independence. Last, broadband is a public utility and the PUD should lead, not follow. Full coverage is difficult, expensive, and challenging, but it is not an option. Today is an essential service with the same universal right of access as water, sewer, and electricity. This was demonstrated by the pandemic when our ability to educate our children, connect with services, including healthcare and telecommute, was dependent on broadband services. I'm running to make a difference, listening to ratepayers.
Thank you. Will, you now have 2 minutes to describe your goals and expectations as a PUD commissioner.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, first off, I'd like to see more customer involvement in the PUD. It's the public's PUD, and I would like more participation, and I hope to improve our education and communication programs to accomplish that. We've got a number of challenges coming up. First off, our Bonneville contracts expire in 2028. We'll see the new contracts in 2023. They'll be executed in 2025 and take effect in 2028. I'll have to emphasize, we have not seen those contracts yet. We have influenced what will be in those contracts by participation in the Public Power Council and other public power organizations. We like what we hear so far. BPA contracts, being a load following full requirements customer, has served us very well. And in fact, the PUD was formed to take advantage of the hydro system at cost. So it is traditionally been the best option. Right now, Bonneville's rates are about half of what market rates are. The other issues coming up are going to be the legislation, the Energy Independence Act, which is does not count hydro as being renewable. It's just solar, wind, and geothermal. So then we've got the most recent legislation, which is CETA, which is electrification of everything, transportation, buildings, and so on. So we've got issues there as far as resource adequacy and how to approach that. We've got broadband. Broadband is very difficult because we traditionally, in fact, up until last year, we only had wholesale authority. So we could only sell excess capacity to ISPs on a wholesale basis. Due to our 2,000 square mile, let me finish, 2,000 square mile service territory, sparsely populated areas, the dense populated is already served.
Over time he's done that, well, barely.
He's going over his time?
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
Members of the public, please make sure to keep yourself muted at all times.
Okay, well, I guess I'm done.
Okay, so now we will move on to our questions that have been sent into the league from the community. In our press release for this forum, we asked community members to send questions, and we had a robust response, and we received several questions. Some questions were similar, so we have combined them together. Some questions had multiple parts, so we split them apart into shorter single issue questions that could be answered in the 90-second response time. We will be alternating the order of speaking, and Will Purser will be going first tonight. So let's get started. First question. The majority of questions we received had to do with alternative energy. So our first question is going to deal with this issue. You have 90 seconds to answer. What is your position on installing local power inside Clallam PUD to give our community more energy independence? Please address the emerging technologies of new renewables like hydrogen, generation, cogeneration, various forms of ocean energy, advanced nuclear designs, advances in wind and solar systems, and various battery storage schemes, including tapping EV batteries via bidirectional charging. And so, Will, that's yours.
Okay, thank you. All right now we're being served by 98% carbon-free power. We're already carbon neutral to meet the state mandate for 2030. We're under CETA, the Clean Energy Transition Act. Hydro is renewable. And so we've got a carbon-free renewable resource. The new contracts, Bonneville we're working with Bonneville to have them provide a CETA compliant product. BPA is the lowest cost and reliable. We have 400 rooftop solar installations in the county already. And so producing energy strictly within Clallam County is probably not doable, except with maybe a small modular reactor or something like that. And I'm not sure that's acceptable to the public. So that's kind of problematic. Under RCW 54, which formed PUDs in the 1930s, it was specifically to take advantage of low cost, at cost power from the hydro system. So I would have to look at the economics, look at the what's being proposed, but I think it's a bit problematic to produce all our energy here in Clallam County. Thank you.
Ken, I will repeat that question because it's kind of long. So what is your position on installing local power production inside Clallam PUD area to give our county more energy independence? Please address emerging technology such as renewables like hydrogen generation, cogeneration, various forms of ocean energy, advanced nuclear designs, advances in solar and wind power, as well as various battery storage schemes such as tapping into EV batteries via bidirectional charging.
Am I unmuted? Okay. Wow, that is a long question. First off, it's important to be aware that by 2050, the demand for power is projected to double. And that means at best, the hydro that we enjoy today at 85 to 87% here will be at least, or at maximum 35%. It's going to take a full and diverse portfolio of energy options to meet the growing demand over the next 25 years. There is so much going on, many of which are viable for us today, from rooftop solar to terrestrial wind to offshore wind to open hydro turbines to even pump storage. There are just limitless opportunities that could be incorporated today. I think, microgrids, in fact, the Pacific Northwest National Laboratories earlier this year had a new grid forming inverter model approved that allows DC, variable energy resource power to be load balanced into the grid. I think we need to do all these things and pursue them. Certainly be vigilant and not get in people's way who want to deploy them. All these innovations are going to be deployed everywhere by 2050, but what's most important for us here in Clallam County is how vulnerable we are. We're a small market in a remote rural county. We're at the end of a vulnerable extension cord, and we're highly vulnerable and exposed to the risk of catastrophic failure. I think we need to pursue these resilient and independent energy sources for our own survival and long-term economic prosperity. It's not really an option for us. It's something we must do.
Okay, thank you. Ken, you will be answering the next question first. It kind of dovetails into this. Our PUD is highly dependent on hydropower. If drought conditions continue and worsen, what is the plan? What is PUD's alternative plan?
I can't tell if I'm unmuted or not. I guess I am. Okay. So hydropower in the Northwest is a diminishing resource. Bonneville Power Administration openly admits to that. What the time frame for that is, no one knows, but I certainly think we have many decades of reliable hydropower. But the great thing about our hydropower is its flexibility, its ability to pair with other variable energy resources. And again, I think that we need to actively engage and pursue other opportunities to provide the long-term resilience and independence that we need in our county to be able to power up in the event of a catastrophic weather event or a catastrophic event affecting the entire region. I mean, BPA would load shed us immediately if there was a catastrophic event region-wide. We'd be the first ones to lose power altogether and the last to get it. So again, I just think it's absolutely critical that we find ways to combine variable energy resources with the flexibility of hydropower. And I also think BPA needs to become more focused on how they can preserve the best components of the hydro system. There are 31 dams and not all of them are as flexible with their hydropower. They don't have the reservoir capacity, the capacity to ramp up and down like some of the bigger dams do. So I think it's going to take a full diverse portfolio to support our energy demands for the future.
Thank you. Will, same question. I'll repeat it. Our PUD is highly dependent on hydropower. If drought conditions continue and worsen, what is the plan for PUD's worsen, and what is PUD's alternative plan? Sorry about that. So it's yours, Will.
Okay, thank you. Actually, we have a diverse portfolio of power supply from Bonneville. It's nuclear, hydro, wind, solar, and so on. So basically, we're there already. Now, as far as being independent from the rest of the world, you know, it's going in the opposite direction. We're actually looking at a regional transmission authority to cover the whole Western U.S. They will balance the grid. They will, where there's surplus power, they'll move it to places where there's a deficit. And so that's the way it's moving. I think that the diversity is good, but you know, we are already our strategic plan at the PUD is to install distribution batteries, which would operate as micro grids. And so, you know, that's limited, but there is battery technologies evolving. We're working with PNNL and Energy Northwest and so on, following all of those issues, including green hydrogen, which some utilities are already doing. So I think that, and just to add, we've had a record water year, and you know, originally Bonneville had $750 million in surplus revenues. Yeah, I just heard yesterday that's well over $1 billion now. So we're certainly not in a drought condition now. And of course it varies, but it goes up and down based on weather conditions.
Thank you. All right, our next question. As PUD committee, and this will start with Will. So we'll be up next. So as PUD commissioner, do you believe that high-speed internet connection is an essential service, and how will you support and guide the PUD to lead broadband expansion throughout the county?
Am I muted? No. Yes, I think it is an essential service. The problem is that most of the high density population areas in the district are already served by ASPs. Forks has CitraLink, Port Angeles and Sequim have Astound. So that leaves the sparsely populated 2,000 square mile areas for service by the PUD or others. So that has been estimated to cost about $150 million. Put that in perspective, our annual budget is $70 million. So what our strategy so far has been to look for grants, low interest loans, and so on to build this out to reduce risk and financial impact. I would not want to put this burden on the electrical customers. And so we will continue, I will continue with that strategy and to work with other organizations within the county, the cities, and so on, and the present ISPs to try to get that retail to the home broadband. So that's how I would approach it.
Okay, thank you. Ken, same question. Do you believe that high-speed internet connection is an essential service, and how will you support and guide the PUD to lead broadband expansion throughout the county?
Well, I do think it's an essential service. I made that comment in my opening statement. I think it's not only essential, but we have it's a universal right of access, just like water, sewer, and electricity. We simply can't live without it. You know, my feeling is we know it's expensive and challenging in our county, but it simply must be done. If the problem had been attacked 20 years ago when my opponent took office, we would have completed a decade ago. So his claims about costs are completely unfounded on, you know, there's no data, there's no study, no research to actually support that. It could cost that much, it could cost less, it could cost more. The cost isn't really the issue here, it's tackling the problem. So my approach would be to invest in a real study for what it takes to complete the connectivity across the county. I mean, the reality is if the PUD can run power to people's houses, they can run internet to their houses as well. My goal would be to work closely with the local service providers, the wireless service providers, and I believe a hybrid system is the future for our county, a combination of fixed fiber and fixed wireless service, you know, to get to branch out from all of the existing backbone and complete the last mile. Again, you know, I just think it's an absolute essential that we find a strategy forward. We do some real planning to get there. We price it out. We cooperate with the existing service providers, and we take the lead in it instead of following.
Hey, thank you. And Ken, this goes to you. Ratepayers have noticed that it takes longer periods of time for the PUD to answer their phones. Most communication is being directed to social media, which alienates customers who do not have computers or who do not use social media. Do you have any suggestions on how to make customer interaction more personal and more user-friendly?
Well, first off, I do think the customer communication is a little sterile and unfriendly, quite honestly. I've had a number of people approach me since the campaign began with this same concern and question. So I do think there needs to be an in-person opportunity. I mean, the PUD offices in their new, incredibly expensive building is the only public agency that's not open to the public right now, post-pandemic. So even that is not an option for people to be able to come up and ask questions and pay their bills. So I think we have to open the facility up. I think we have to have people answering the phones. And I think we have to have all these options available to individuals and customers who have questions or concerns. And there are a lot of concerns in the county about rates and costs, especially for those of modest means. So I think it's absolutely essential that we improve the customer relationship and communication. You know, to be honest, I think the staff is fairly dedicated and earnest in these efforts. I just don't think the leadership's there to provide the right approach and to put the right emphasis on customer service. The PUD is a service industry. I mean, customer satisfaction is rooted in employee satisfaction, and there's even issues within the organization with a culture of favoritism. So I think they need to do work all the way down the line from employee satisfaction to customer satisfaction. And that everything they do should be customer focused, customer driven, always asking the question, does the customer benefit? Is this what the customer wants and needs?
Thank you. Okay, Will, I'll repeat the question. Ratepayers have noticed that it takes longer periods of time for the PUD to answer their phones. Most communication is being directed to social media, which alienates customers who do not have computers or do not use social media. Do you have any suggestions on how to make customer interaction more personal and more user-friendly?
Yes, we just came over 2 years of COVID. Every time we've attempted to open up, we've had a spike in cases. And so we still have people that are working from home. We're trying to follow the county health department's guidelines. So that's contributed to it. And so I think that I've brought this to attention of management. Actually, I was in a group the other day where we tried to call the PUD and we got kind of negative experience. So basically, we need to have voicemail. We need to have, and it's all being taken care of at this point in time, hopefully. We've also experienced the same thing that other organizations have, is that people really don't want to come back to work. So, I don't quite understand that. I've worked ever since I was 16, but so I think this is being addressed. We need to improve there. There's no doubt about that. I'll admit that. So And hopefully they brought this to management's attention, and they are in the process of, assured me that they're in the process of improving that experience with voicemail and an operator that can to handle the calls and so on. So I think that problem will go away over time. As far as opening up, our lobby is open now. We're still having virtual meetings. And again, we're following the health department's guidelines.
Okay, thank you. This is along those same lines, and this will go to Will first. How will you improve communications between ratepayers and the commissioners?
Am I muted? No. Okay, well, the first thing I would like to see is more participation in our commission meetings. We have a few people that come to those meetings. Usually they're people that have some kind of an agenda or whatever. I'd like to get a good sampling of the overall customer base to get feedback, to help us make decisions that are in line with, this can't be an Athenian democracy, but we certainly need to have more participation at the PUD. So we're going to put out more information with the presentations that are presented in the PUD commission meetings. I'll give you an example. Electrification, we had a pretty deep dive, and that's recorded. But as far as the visuals, we need to have those and the recording online so that people can see what is going on. So that's another thing that I would like to see. I would also, we have this newspaper which we put out and publish, and a lot of good information in that. I would encourage people to read that, and we're going to up our game on that as well. So I would like to see more public participation, more customer participation, and not just this thing of when you turn the lights on and when you get the bill, it's only time people think of the PUD. So anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you. Ken, same question. How will you improve communications between ratepayers and PUD commissioners?
Well, first off, you know, it's important that you listen to the ratepayers and the customers. You know, the PUD leadership right now has a reputation for being indifferent and not willing to listen to anybody who differs from their own opinions. Getting that public participation takes more than just simply opening the meetings and hoping for it. It takes active and aggressive engagement. I've learned this when I was on the Swim City Council trying to get public engagement and approval for a couple of critical initiatives. And it took really broad reaching, a lot of effort to go out into the community and engage people whenever and wherever they could. So if you're going to listen to everyone, you have to get to everyone. So my approach would be to take the meetings to the ratepayers, to at least quarterly hold meetings somewhere other than at the new headquarters. Take them to each of the major, to each of the 3 districts, into the 3 major metropolitan areas of the district, of the county rather, and also actively engage the key stakeholders, the municipalities, the county government, as well as the Economic Development Council and other economic organizations in the county. They have actively tried to get the PUD to sit down with them and talk about issues, and the PUD has flatly refused and said, why should we? So I think it takes active and aggressive engagement. You have to listen to everyone with an open mind, and you have to take the meetings to the people.
Okay, thank you. Ken, you'll be answering the next question first. This kind of comes along with communication. Oftentimes, commissioners are faced with a vote on issues when ratepayers have missed advance notification. How will you improve early interaction to avoid this?
Could you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
I will. I'm sorry. Oftentimes, commissioners are faced with a vote on issues when ratepayers have missed advanced notification. How will you improve early interaction to avoid this?
Well, I think this feeds off of the last question. I mean, I think it takes active, first off, I believe that every decision the PUD makes should be customer informed. You know, they should be asking, does this benefit the customer? Is this what the customer wants? And will this help the customer in regards to their costs for utilities and services? And the only way to do that is to actively and aggressively engage the customers. And I think that's the key. And I think that's what's been missing. I think when there are when there are decisions that require a vote that are shaping policy or making critical budget decisions or even influencing the regional power decision making, absolutely requires, you know, aggressive public engagement. And it's going to be more than just simply holding one meeting at the PUD headquarters with the meeting being open to the public. I think you have to take it to the service clubs, to the municipalities, and engage each of those organizations in their own meetings and do whatever you possibly can to get the word out. I mean, that's the only way to get full public consensus and buy-in to the decisions that you're making.
Oh, you're muted.
Okay, try that again. Thank you. So oftentimes, this is for Will, oftentimes commissioners are faced with a vote on issues when ratepayers have missed advance notification. How will you improve early interaction to avoid this?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back and make a couple of corrections. First thing off, we did not have retail authority for broadband until last year. So building out to residents wasn't an option by state law. Secondly, we've never refused to meet with any organization. So anyway, from that, I'm sorry if I'm breaking protocol, but I just have to do it. We publish our agenda, and we have actually tabled things to give notification. For example, on our strategic plan, we tabled that and reached out to all the organizations within the county, all the stakeholders, and gave them additional 2 weeks to respond to that. I'm not aware of any decision that we've come to a vote of any magnitude, except approving purchasing of trucks and things like that, that we haven't given sufficient public notification. And I think all the commissioners are making themselves accessible to the customers, to the organizations, to social clubs, and so on. So that's actually been being done. And taking our PUD commissioners commission meetings on a roadshow, we've done that. We've gone to Holland Bay, Forks, Port Angeles, and Sequim. So that's all been in the works.
Okay, thank you. And Will, you'll be answering this one first.
Okay.
Are you satisfied with the existing Bonneville Power Administration contract? What elements concern you as the PUD approaches another 20-year contract beginning in 2028?
All right, by existing contract, you mean the contract that we have now in place? Is that what we're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it served us very well. The new contracts, my concern is, first thing off, will Bonneville offer a CETA compliant product? And indications are that they're looking at that and may do that. Duration of the contract, 20 years is a long time. So we have talked about trying to reduce that 10-year contracts and so on. Now, Bonneville says for planning purposes and all that, they need to have a 20-year contract for predictability and so on. Let me just point out that there's been some criticism of participating in public power organizations. You know, this is a small utility with only 35,000 customers. So we have to participate through public power to influence Bonneville, to influence these contracts, and to influence those decisions as well as legislation. So as far as the new contracts, we haven't seen them yet. But the existing contract, we have, it served us fairly well.
Thank you. Okay, same thing to Ken. Are you satisfied with the existing Bonneville Power Administration's contract? What elements concern you as the PUD approaches another 20-year contract beginning in 2028?
No, I don't support or approve of the current contract or the current contract negotiations. The current contract constrains us economically. It restricts our ability to add additional loads to support new industry. A lot of new industry that is green requires heavy green power, and we simply aren't able to provide it, or at least the response to those that have inquired has been they can't by the PUD. You know, the current contract is a new type of structure that was created to help Bonneville, you know, match revenues to expenses. They've been struggling for decades to do that. And it doesn't even guarantee rates. All it does is guarantee that we're obligated to them for the term period, which in this case is 20 years and is being proposed for another 20 years. You know, our only obligation to be guaranteed the lowest rates, federally mandated lowest rates, is to have a contract with them. I do not believe we are obligated to negotiate with public power together. I can't find anywhere in the legislation that actually says that. And I do think, you know, we are an island. We're a small market in a remote rural county. You know, all of the discussions about the importance of variable energy resource, resilience, and independence has nothing to do with conditions anywhere else in the state. We are on our own here, and that's what's critical. And the current contract constrains and restricts our ability to thrive and survive economically and socially. I think we need to negotiate more directly for the next contract with BPA.
Okay, thank you. And Ken, this will be your question first. What role does the PUD have concerning the availability of water in Carlsbad? And how will that affect other water users in this area? I assume they're asking about the new water hookup in Carlsbad.
Please repeat the first part of the question one more time.
Yes. Okay. What role does the PUD have concerning the availability of water in Carlsbad? And how will that affect other water users in this area?
Well, the PUD is a primary service provider for water in the Carlsbad UGA. So they play an important role. I think their role, though, has to be, you know, fulfilled in cooperation with the county. You know, the UGAs are mandated by the Comprehensive Plan, the Urban Growth Act, to support the higher density development in our county. And, you know, I find it astounding that the PUD staff have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours along with county staff to write a memorandum of understanding that outlines each party's interests and their common interests together, and that the board, including my opponent, still can't seem to move that forward. They can't seem to understand that approving that MOU, which has come before them twice, including a joint meeting with the county commissioners, can't seem to move that forward. So their role is important. You know, the issues are challenging, the aquifer is critical, but the next step to supporting the growth and supporting the existing and future uses in Carlsbad is getting access to new water rights from the Department of Ecology, from the state. We have to remember that the state owns all the water. We don't own it, whether it's your own private well, whether it's a water system, whether it's the PUD water system. You know, the state owns that. So all rights come through the state. And I'm just astounded how much resistance my opponent and the other board members have put up against moving this project forward.
Thank you. Okay, Will, same question. What role does the PUD have concerning the availability of water in Carlsbad, and how will that affect other users of water in that area?
Okay, this issue is, what was just said is total misrepresentation. What is being pushed is that we have a local utility district which has water rights for full build out. Now, full build out will happen over a period of years, but those water rights were secured for that LUD, and those pioneers in that LUD paid for that system. And if you take those water rights away, then you're going to spread the water out over the UGA, which we're being pushed to do. It's not, as a commissioner, it's not about staff time, county or PUD staff time that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about protecting the customers. So we set up a meeting with LUD participants to get a workshop to get their feedback. And so I would not sign a memo of understanding with the county, although it's non-binding, but in good faith, I still couldn't sign it until we see what the customers think about that. What do they want? Now, it may be a compromise, and we're not going to inhibit build out the UGA, but customers need to have a say-so in this. So anyway, that's my position.
Thank you. Okay, Will, you'll be answering this question first. Do you favor maximizing state and/or federal funding opportunities to help enhance PUD services to its ratepayers? Are there some areas of funding that you're in favor of? And if so, please provide the details.
Yes, I think under the, am I unmuted? Yeah. I think under some of these infrastructure bills that have been passed, some of that money will go to the state to administer. And so you have to apply for grants through the state, which is, I would rather we got funding directly. But things like broadband, we hear where the infrastructure bill is earmarked tens of billions of dollars for broadband. Well, when you spread that across the whole nation to the underserved areas in the Midwest and all over the country, that's not a lot of money. So that's not going to be a solution to all the problems. But, and also there's, when you take federal dollars, there's usually a lot of requirements to be met, which doesn't always, sync up with the local population and what their best interests. So we would certainly take the money, but we will be cautious about the terms and conditions that are imposed on us. There's money to be had for example, at Energy Northwest, they're getting money for advanced nuclear reactors. And that's important to us because we may not own a nuclear reactor, but we may take a piece of one or buy power from it. We're working with Green County right now. So yes, we'll certainly take the money, but we'll be cautious about it.
Thank you. Ken, same question. Do you favor maximizing state and or federal funding opportunities to enhance PUD services to its ratepayers? Are there some areas of funding that you are in favor of? And if so, please provide the details.
Well, first off, I do support state and federal funding. The simple truth is, public utilities and services across this nation wouldn't be as extensive and as broadly available without it. I mean, that's the history. And in the early 1910s, 10% of the population had electric service. When the federal government decided to step in and help fund and in partnership with private sector, by the 1950s, 90% of the nation was electrified. This is the kind of effort it takes. Almost everyone agrees that one thing government can and should do and can do well is provide essential services. So absolutely. My opponent just simply doesn't seem to understand, how critical our situation is here. We need to pursue this funding to help build some resilience and energy independence. We are on our own. That's the bottom line here. Building these other facilities. I mean, he sits on the board of Northwest Energy, supporting the first small modular reactor in a different county. Where's all his 20 years of experience and leverage helping us now for that? Things he assumes what the public here wants or doesn't want, instead of actively engaging people to find out. I mean, we need to have these conversations before you jump to conclusions. I just feel like there's always an excuse why something can't be done. I'm process oriented and project driven, and that's the reason I'm running, because I think there are opportunities and solutions, and I absolutely believe those opportunities lie within the federal and state funding opportunities. You have to show up at the table to get the money. My opponent didn't show up to the DOE roundtable a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, thank you. There is a question that this kind of comes back to, it was mentioned earlier. So the general manager, Sean Worthington, noted recently that our public PUD is positioned by the BPA to be the first customer in the region that is subject to emergency load shedding. In essence, the BPA will shut off the power to Clallam County, which could occur if there's insufficient power supply somewhere else in the region. Since we have no control over other regions' power usage, how do you believe the PUD should plan in case of such an event? And this is for Ken first. Do you want me to repeat that?
Nope, I was just making sure I was unmuted. So I think this just follows up on much of what we've been talking about and much of what my campaign's been emphasizing. We are a small market in a remote rural county. We are at the end of the line, literally. We're on a very vulnerable extension cord. There is no energy loop that surrounds the county and allows us to be fed power from either side. I just absolutely think that, a catastrophic event, as you just described, a scenario where we would be load shedded, is absolutely critical that we address. you know, there are opportunities. There's microgrids. You know, we can further incentivize independent rooftop solar. We can actively pursue funding for terrestrial and offshore wind. I mean, the offshore wind potential on the Washington coast, although a very heavy lift, you know, it certainly has tremendous potential. But right now, even if that was to begin to materialize, we don't have enough high voltage lines out far enough to be able to plug into it. You know, the McKinley cogeneration plant in Port Angeles, you know, when it was built, somebody pointed out the fact that it couldn't operate as an island and that it would cost about $2.4 million more to be able to do that, to provide power when the rest of the power goes down. I mean, it takes power to generate power. And where was the PUD stepping up to say, look, we'll pay for that if we can have a memorandum of understanding with the city of Port Angeles to be able to at least energize emergency services. There's lots that can be done. We need to get focused on it, and we need to have a real strategic plan that maps out costs, strategies, and how we're going to pursue the funding and the opportunities to realize it.
Thank you. Will, same question. The general manager, Sean Worthington, noted recently, our PUD is positioned by BPA to be the first customer in the region that is subject to emergency load shedding. In essence, BPA will be shutting off power to Clallam County PUD, which could occur when insufficient power supply is available to meet demands elsewhere in the region. Since we have no control over other regions' power usage, what do you believe should be the PUD's plan in case of such an event?
Okay, I would question that. In my own meeting, yeah. I would question that shutting off power. If there's not sufficient power or there's an interruption in power, then there would maybe brownouts or whatever, but they have an obligation to serve. And so they're not going to shut the power off to Clallam County. Let me go back and correct something. The Secretary of Energy meeting, they told us who they wanted to talk to. You had to have a security clearance, and they said specifically they wanted to talk to the manager of the PUD and one subject matter expert. Going to that meeting was not an option. So like a lot of stuff that Ken peddles, it's not really the case. So anyway, the other thing about, we have attempted numerous times at the PUD to build renewable resources. For example, Radar Ridge would have been the first wind farm to be on the west of the Cascades. And that was, we were pretty far along with that, participating with other PUDs. And it was shut down because of environmental concerns and migratory birds. We also were involved in a wave energy project off of Nia Bay. And there was some concern about not in my backyard sort of thing. So, you know, over the years, we have attempted a number of those type of things. And of course, we have installed a solar farm in Squim with charging stations and so on. And we're looking at doing more of those type things.
Thank you. This first one will go to Will. So how can you encourage more active customer engagement for input for the future PUD policy decisions?
That sounds like the same question we got before, but we'll do it again. So basically, we put out communications. We've got a communications program. We published a book on the PUD and how public power works and so on. There needs to be a lot of more education of the public of the benefits of public power and the benefits of the PUD. So we're going to continue to up our game on that. We also have taken our commission meetings on road shows out west to Clallam Bay, Forks, Port Angeles, and in Squim, so that we can get more participation. We started recording our video recordings of our meetings a few years ago, and we're doing virtual meetings, which anybody can dial into. We publish the link and so on. So, and we probably will morph into hybrid meetings, which will allow more and more people to participate in those meetings. And during those meetings, we have two sessions, two agenda items for public comment. And at the beginning of the meeting, we hear concerns. And then after we've talked about the business items, then we open it up to public comment again. So we're getting quite a bit of this. Given it's a hybrid meeting and people can participate very easily, that seems to be working well.
Thank you. Okay, Ken, same question. How can you encourage more active customer engagement for input to the future PUD policies?
Well, first off, you have to actually want to listen to what the public has to say. You have to be interested in actually making all the decisions that you are responsible for, customer driven. And you can't wait for the customers, the voters, and the ratepayers to come to you. You have to practice active and aggressive engagement. And, my opponent, says he wants to do these things. Well, he's had 20 years to up his game. And I guess now is the time to start because it's an election year. You need to go to the service clubs. You need to schedule events at libraries or at council meetings. You need to schedule and hold town hall meetings. It takes a real significant and broad-ranging effort to reach the public, and that's actually what needs to be done. I mean, these are important decisions that are facing us, whether it's the decision to pursue a small modular reactor in our county, or whether it's a decision to actually tackle broadband, or whether it's a decision to ensure we have some energy resilience and independence, whether it's a decision to actually make sure the water systems they're responsible for are actually proactively managed and maintained instead of constantly reacting. These are all critical decisions that require public input and need to be public and customer-focused, customer-driven decisions. And so you just have to do everything that it takes. My time on the Sequim City Council taught me that you can't just simply announce a decision or a policy, choice that's going to be made and hope people show up. You have to go to the people.
Thank you. So our last question is going to be, and Ken, this will start. What role does the PUD have in educating the public about incentives for individual rooftop solar, small individual wind generators, or other power generation?
Well, again, you have to believe in the underlying goals of variable energy resource. My opponent, and it appears some other leadership at the PUD simply doesn't believe in these types of energy resources. So I think, again, with any other issue that involves public input, you have to be active and aggressive in reaching out. I think this pairs perfectly with my feelings about conservation, which always has been, is today, and always will be the best way for ratepayers to save money. I think the PUD needs to take an active role, providing real guidance and support and information on how to deploy instead of constantly getting in the way of those who want to do these things. I mean, the PUD has, over the last couple of years, actually imposed restrictions or requirements that aren't being required anywhere else, aren't even in the National Electric Code. So the truth is, even though my opponent, resisted the small solar farm in Sequim when it was supposed to have been 3.5 times that size, it took the other two commissioners at the time to actively go out and engage people to make them aware that it was happening. And once they did that, there was quick buy-in. So he can co-opt my message and he can parrot the things I'm saying in this election year, but clearly, these are all issues that people care about. And so I think, again, you have to do whatever it takes to support, what people are interested in and what they care about. I mean, people on the West End don't adopt a lifestyle of no power in the winter and no internet service as a choice.
Okay, thank you. So we have the same question to Will. What role does the PUD have in educating the public regarding incentives for individual rooftop solar, small personal wind generators, and other individual power generation?
Okay, well, thank you. You can tell it's a campaign, misinformation and hyperbole. Nobody opposed the solar farm in Sequim. And in fact, we encouraged that and saw it to fruition. And it was never going to be 3 times that size, just the footprint wouldn't accommodate it. We have more solar. We've got over 400 rooftop solar installations in the district than any other utility our size. We've helped with technical assistance and how to apply for incentives. We've helped with net metering. We have not imposed any kind of technological impediments on that. And in fact, we have shepherded that through to get that 400 rooftop solar installations. Anybody that wants to install solar, You know, the truth of the matter is that even with the 400 rooftop solar installations, a lot of people don't have the money to spend $20,000 to $40,000, even with the incentives and the tax breaks. So we have to, you know, represent all of the population, and community solar is a good way to do it. And we've done that. We also had a subscription solar farm, which failed because people did not choose to participate. So.
Okay, thank you. We have now completed all the questions we have tonight, and we want to thank the candidates. We will now move to closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for his closing statement. Since opening statements were started by Ken Hayes, Will Purser will begin with closing statements. So Will, your closing statement.
Okay, thank you. I'm not a politician. I've been a PUD commissioner because I feel like it's a public service, and I believe in the concept of public power. I'm not seeking re-election for any personal gain. I funded most of my campaign myself, and on several occasions, I've refused donations from special interest and quid pro quo donations, which I can't say that for my opponent. I'm proud to serve as a PUD with a PUD staff that runs a state-of-the-art utility and which repeatedly receives national awards for excellence from financial, technological, reliability, and forward-looking. Because I'm not a politician, all I can honestly offer you is facts and realistic details about issues facing our communities. Political rhetoric, unattainable campaign promises, hyperbole, and misinformation will not take us into a secure energy future. Unfounded criticism of the PUD as an institution and the folks that work there is going a bit too far, as my opponent has done. The PUD, the staff, the management, and the commission, it navigates challenges with state-of-the-art solutions. We work to restore weather-related outages in the wee hours and all different types of weather. Subject matter experts are consulted on solutions to challenges that are compounded by climate change and state and federal mandates. We're only interested in the comfort and safety at the lowest rates for our customers. So that's what I'm all about: low rates and reliable power. All the hyperbole and campaign promises and everything's cheaper, quicker, better sounds good, but I hope the public is considering reality and the source of that. So anyway, that's thank you, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Ken, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Well, as I've already noted, you know, my opponent has tried to co-opt almost all of the campaign message that my team has put out there, parrots much of what I say, and suddenly seems to be in favor of things that he's noted and known for being opposed to. You know, he says now that he's in favor of rooftop solar, that he wants to work on broadband. But if you listen carefully, including to his latest radio ad, there's always a but in there, a reason why something can't be done. You know, frankly, he's running to keep his job, this job that we're both competing for, and the job that this job allows him to have with Northwest Energy. The PUD is a municipal corporation, a collection of enterprise businesses where customers and shareholders are the same. The PUD is also a natural monopoly. These facts obligate the PUD to provide exceptional levels of service at the lowest possible cost. This means the PUD must be open and transparent, making customer-informed decisions together, not in the vacuum. The PUD professional organization is strong, with full of dedicated people, and they deserve better leadership that empowers them to be the best that they can and provide the best possible customer service. You know, PUDs have always provided essential service, but in today's rapidly evolving and highly electrified world, the importance and criticalness is heightened. Continuing to do business with the same opaqueness, public indifference, and a bloated budget is unacceptable. I can't think of any reason you shouldn't vote for a change in the PUD leadership. I respect my opponent's time in office. I respect anyone who's been served an elected position, but my opponent has become institutionalized, stuck in the ideas of legacy power, refusing to fully embrace the world we live in, the inevitable future of energy, or to actively engage ratepayers. Clearly, it's time for a change, time for new leadership, time for vision and fresh ideas. Please vote for our energy and utility future. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the citizens of Clallam County, I want to thank the candidates for running for office and appearing here tonight. Thank you to the North Olympic Library System and Sarah Morrison for helping with technical assistance and management of the forum and for co-sponsoring this event. Another thank you to Silas Cruz for recording this broadcast for Peninsula Area Public Access Channel 21. This forum will be broadcast Mondays at 10 a.m. and Wednesdays at 5:30 on Channel 21. You can also view this forum again online by going to the League of Women Voters website at lwvcla.org and click on the Forums tab at the top of the homepage. Tell your friends and family in case they couldn't attend this forum tonight. The PowerPoint presentation on the election form information will be played again now, and you can see it at the same if you didn't see it at the beginning of this forum. Remember, voting begins October 21st through November 8th. So please get out there and vote. Good night to all. Thank you.
Thank you to the League.
Yes, thanks. Thank you.